The structural slab didn't just fall. It screamed as it sheared away from the spire's crystalline ceiling. Archon Zyra lay pinned, her bioluminescent skin dimming to a fractured gray, while the Vora bombardment turned the horizon into a jagged line of fire. Captain Voss stepped toward her, his environmental suit venting white oxygen like a dying breath, his hands trembling as he reached for the sparking device on his wrist. Logic is a straight line, but in this moment of failing light, it felt like humans were the only ones who knew how to navigate the labyrinth. If you've ever wondered why the most advanced empires keep a human in the room, subscribe and stay for the answer. Now, let's see how a fragile species breaks the rules of a perfect war. 11 days earlier, the hardest decision Kalen Voss had faced was whether the synthesized coffee in the mess hall was actually toxic or just aggressively stale. The spire of Ethelgard hung in the orbit of Orizon Prime like a needle of pure light, a monument to astrari perfection where every bolt and beam was calculated to last 1,000 years. Zyra watched the human from the high balcony of the security hub. To her, Voss was a biological anomaly, a creature of soft tissue and erratic pulses moving through a fortress of logic. He spent his afternoon recalibrating a kinetic tether, a heavy, utilitarian wrist-mounted winch that looked like a scar against the sleek aesthetics of the hegemony. The Archon found his presence taxing. The Astrari did not require security details, in a world where predictive algorithms neutralized threats before they manifested. Thus, the human looked up, his face reflecting in the polished amber floor. He didn't offer the synchronized bow of a subordinate. Instead, he gave a quick, lopsided tilt of the head that the Archon's translation matrix labeled as informal acknowledgement. The Vora haven't breached this sector in 3 centuries. Captain, Zyra said, her voice a series of harmonic resonances. Your insistence on manual perimeter checks is a waste of metabolic energy. Voss wiped a smear of grease onto his trousers. Algorithms are great for patterns, Archon. But the universe doesn't always like to repeat itself. He tapped the kinetic tether on his arm. It hummed, a low-frequency vibration that seemed to irritate the silent, crystalline air of the spire. To Zyra, the tool was a primitive relic of a species that still expected to fail. The Astrari did not plan for failure. They optimized for its absence. Then the sky broke. It wasn't a gradual escalation. It was a mathematical impossibility. The Vora fleet arrived not through the predicted jump points, but through a series of micro-tiers in the atmosphere that bypassed the spire's primary shields entirely. The first salvo hit the structural dampeners. Zyra felt the vibration through her feet, a discordant shudder that shouldn't have been possible. The spire groaned. It was the sound of perfection shattering. Archon Zyra felt her own heart stop the moment Captain Voss stepped more than 10 meters away from her. Amidst the cascading alarms and the smell of ozone, Voss didn't look for a terminal. He didn't wait for the hegemony's central AI to issue a directive. He simply moved. The ceiling groaned, a final, structural surrender that drowned out the hum of the spire's failing core. Zyra watched the human. Voss didn't look like a hero. He looked like a man fighting the sheer weight of the atmosphere. With a roar that was more animal than soldier, he slammed the kinetic tether into a recessed floorbolt. The cable went taut, vibrating with such intensity it sang a high, killing note. His suit hissed, warning of critical pressure, but he didn't let go. He leveraged his entire frame against the falling slab, his muscles cording into knots that seemed ready to snap. For 3 seconds, he held back the weight of a dying empire. "Move," he spat, the word thick with the metallic tang of his own internal cost. Zyra scrambled clear, her bioluminescence flaring in a panicked strobe. The moment she was free, the slab pancaked into the floor, missing her by a fraction of a centimeter. Voss collapsed, his breathing a wet, ragged sound in the sudden silence of the dust-choked hall. The Archon reached for him. Her hands, usually so steady and cold, trembled as she touched the jagged rent in his side. He was dying. The logic of the universe demanded his cessation. But Zyra was the Archon of the hegemony, and she refused to accept the equation. She initiated the Zenith Link, a forbidden biological override. A flash of white heat fused their neural pathways. Her heart, once a rhythmic, cooling pump, surged with the frantic, heat-drenched tempo of the human's pulse. They were no longer two observers. They were a single, synchronized resonance. The Vora fleet didn't expect a counterattack. Why would they? Their algorithms had already calculated the Astrari's surrender. But they hadn't accounted for the divide-by-zero error currently bleeding on the command deck. "They're reading our patterns," Voss wheezed, leaning heavily against the Archon's shoulder as they stood before the tactical holomap. "So stop having patterns." Zyra felt his thought process through the link. A chaotic, swirling storm of intuition and what if. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. "High Command," Zyra broadcast, her voice now carrying an edge of human grit. "Break formation. All ships, execute erratic burns. Flood the Vora frequencies with the library of Earth. Give them the jazz, the poetry, the screams. Give them the noise they can't categorize." The Astrari fleet, usually a masterpiece of synchronized movement, turned into a riot. Ships veered at impossible angles. The communications net erupted in a cacophony of human culture, unpredictable, soulful, and utterly illogical. On the Vora viewscreens, the perfect enemy disappeared. In its place was a labyrinth they couldn't solve. The Vora drones, slaved to predictive AI, began to stutter. They fired at ghosts. They collided with each other, unable to calculate the trajectory of a pilot who was currently flying to the rhythm of a syncopated drum beat. The Vora did not retreat because they were outgunned. They fled because they were confused. To a species of pure logic, the sudden introduction of human chaos was a toxin. In the quiet aftermath, the smoke cleared from the Spire's observation deck. The Vora were gone, leaving only the drifting husks of their perfect machines. Zyra stood by the shattered window, her hand resting on the human's shoulder. She could feel the kinetic tether on his wrist. The metal was cold now, its mission over. The device sat silent, no longer straining against the weight of the world. But as Zyra looked at it, she realized the hum hadn't truly stopped. It had moved. The vibration was now deep in her own chest, a steady, rhythmic pulse that matched the human's breathing. They had been told humanity was fragile. But as the sons of Orizon Prime rose over the ruins, Zyra knew the truth. Fragility was just another word for the ability to break the rules. The kinetic tether sat heavy on Voss's wrist, its dull gray surface scarred by the rescue. It was just a tool, yet it felt like a part of the Spire now, its humming vibration perfectly synchronized with the Archon's own bio-readings. Was it the human's heart that saved us, or the chaos he brought with it? Perhaps, in a galaxy of perfect equations, the only thing worth keeping is the error that keeps us alive. We'll be here tomorrow with another legend.